Fleming here. A law student who said women have vaginas and are not as physically strong as men is being investigated by Abertay University in Dundee, which you may well know I come from. Anyway, before we start, would you please remember to hit the subscribe button and make some move towards the contributions area, where you can give me as little or as much as you like. You can join my Patreon, you can contribute to the GoFundMe for Sam and her health costs. There's a whole bunch of other things that you can do, and I will even list them for you so that you can get in there. You know, people use my content. It's got to be worth a pint. The story, and I'm quoting from the Dundee Courier, which is an excellent newspaper, disciplinary action has been taken against Lisa Keogh, 29, over offensive and discriminatory comments that she made during lectures at a Dundee-based university, Abertay. The mature final year student told the Times, UK Times that is, that she was reported by younger classmates after she said women were born with female genitals, and that the difference of physical strength of men versus women is a fact. Now, this is a much more complicated case than you might think. I, first of all, would have to say that, right up, let's get this out of the way, first of all, I can't see how Ms. Keogh has made any kind of or sin, or committed any kind of sin, by saying what she did. I think that what we're looking at is something that I've complained about for a long time, and I will continue to do, which is equivocation. And this is something we're going to examine a little bit before we progress with the story, because it's a good place to do it. Equivocation, what is that? That is where you use the same word to mean two different things. And it's a very dangerous thing. It's a nasty little trick that's used all the time in rhetoric, and it's unhelpful. It's deeply unhelpful. And those of you who are concerned about truth and logic should learn to spot equivocation and wreck it. Just destroy it, because it doesn't help. It just muddies the water, which is actually its point. And the equivocation here is a conflation of two completely different terms: sex and gender. These are not the same. I mean, in no sense are they the same. Sex, as far as physical sex is concerned, is determined at conception. You are either XX or XY. If you're XX, you're female. If you're XY, you're male. And no, I am not going to entertain any idea that you don't have a sex until you're born and then it's a sign. That's nonsense. That's a complete nonsense. That is part of the equivocation, the idea that somebody decides for you what your sex is. No, your sex is defined at conception, and that's it. It can't be changed. It can never be changed. And if we slightly change what Ms. Keogh said, or at least what she was reported as saying, because we don't actually know if it's what actually said, if we change it to, or at least read it as saying, females are born with female genitalia, and that the difference in physical strength between males and females is a fact. If we took that, then there is no argument possible with that, because it's all true. Females are born with female genitalia. I mean, I know about the intersex conditions, so please don't try that one. In the vast, overwhelming majority of cases, if you're born with female genitalia, then you're female. And if you're born with male genitalia, guess what? You're male. And it's as simple as that. The problem is that gender is not fixed in the way that sex is. Now, gender is not fluid. Gender is not something you can just change at will. Gender is a function, a complex function, that depends partly on physical parameters, but also on social ones and psychological ones, and mainly on sexuality, right? If you are, for example, just for one example, if you are a male who desires to be a recipient in sex to men, then you have female sexuality, and normally your gender should be feminine. Okay? Gender, therefore, is not as fixed as it is not as fixed as sex is, but it's still, it's not just something you can say, well, today I'm a man. That is ludicrous. That's just ridiculous. We should have nothing to do with it. So depending on precisely what Ms. Keogh said, we have to be a little careful. 1, 2, 3. I think in normal debate we would allow people away with that, we'd let them away with it, and we would accept, yes, okay, what she means when she says woman is a gender term, although she sounds like she's meaning it as a sex term, it's not. And the same with males. So, or man and male. So woman is a gender category, it's not a sex category. Okay? Yes, I completely agree. Most women are female, but not all women are female. Right? The same is true of men. Most men, actually a larger proportion than is true in the females, most men are male, but not all men are male. But in normal debate, we would just let that pass. But we've reached a point in society where nobody is allowed to express any kind of variance with a particular strongly left-wing position, which I disagree with. Ms. Keogh is a mother of 2, and she is in postgraduate law study in her final year, so this is really important for her. She could well lose her career because of the activities of a few idiots, basically, who've picked up on something that didn't matter, a throwaway comment. They police language today to the point where the slightest variation, the slightest deviation from what is prescribed must be punished. And a good example of this would be, I'll do another piece on this, but just quite quickly, is last week there was a huge row because a London and North Eastern Railway guard entered a carriage and said, "Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls," which sounds perfectly fair to me, but he offended a couple of people who claim to be non-binary. Now, we know non-binary doesn't exist. We know it's just a political pose. And we just see in that instance exactly why this political pose exists, so that ordinary people can be crucified on it. It's just about being pernicious and nasty. That's all it is. It has no other meaning. You cannot be non-binary. You're either male or female, right? Yeah, I mean, there are some bisexual people who are kind of in between the genders, but that doesn't make them non-binary. It just means them bisexual, for God's sake. Anyway, Ms. Keogh, to get back to the lady in question, and I am not about to police my language, thank you very much. Ms. Keogh added that she didn't mean to offend, but just to take part in the debate. Yes, and in a debate you might well say things out of custom or habit that, were you in a context where you knew people were picking up on this sort of thing, you might not. But the trouble with wokeism is wokeism assumes that everybody is evil and that they must be castigated at every possible turn. Wokeism is unquestionably the nastiest and most evil cult that has ever, well, certainly has appeared in my lifetime. It's disastrous, and we are going to have to get rid of it. And she said, "I thought there was no way that the university would pursue me for utilising my legal right to freedom of speech." And it is a legal right, by the way. I didn't deny saying these things and told the university exactly why I did so. You've got to be able to freely exchange different opinions, otherwise it's not a debate. Clap, clap, clap. She's absolutely right. Totally correct. And then, of course, politicians got involved. Joanna Cherry QC, the SNP MP for Edinburgh South West and Deputy Chairwoman of the Lords and Commons Joint Committee on Human Rights, branded the action taken by the university as farcical. And she has contacted Abertay, asking how it protected student rights to freedom of speech under the European Convention of Human Rights, which obviously it doesn't do. You don't pick people up for making a completely innocent statement like that if you actually care about their right to free speech. She said, Ms. Keogh is being subjected to a disciplinary procedure in which the ultimate sanction is expulsion for stating opinions based on biological fact. And then, here's the equivocation again. Had she said male, then instead of men, or female instead of women, there's no possible argument with that, because females are actually female and males actually are male. But what you have to understand is that people use man and woman because they think that calling someone a male is offensive. It kind of dehumanizes them. It kind of objectifies them. If you say to, look at that female over there, that sounds, when you say, oh, look at that woman over there, sounds much better. But actually, in fact, the woman that you're looking at, and believe me, especially in the Philippines, could be male or female. You wouldn't know. You honestly wouldn't know whether she's male or female, but she is a woman. She looks, acts, and does everything in the way that you would expect a woman to do. And that's all that we require from gender, because that's what gender is. It tells you who we are. Abertay University, of course, ran for cover and says, oh, it doesn't comment on disciplinary matters, but says that freedom of speech is strongly encouraged by the university, which obviously it's not. That's clearly a lie. Now, let's just a little bit back in time. Abertay University was actually one of Tony Blair's universities. It was formerly Bell Street Technology College. And I actually attended there at one point, a long time ago. I'm an ex-student of Bell Street Tech, and which had then actually become, let me see, I think it was called the College of Commerce by that stage. That's the same bloody thing. And it was turned, a lot of these polytechnics were turned into universities by Tony Blair because he was determined to get as many people into university as he could, because he believed that university graduates would naturally vote Labour, and thus ensure a permanent Labour majority in Britain. Didn't quite work out like that, Tone, did it? I think you maybe planted one there. Anyway, I'm sure that more will come of this, so watch the space. But Ms. Keogh, you have my support. That might surprise some people, but I don't think that you were being offensive. I really don't. I mean, when I hear people like so-called Posey Parker, Miss Keen Minchell, when I hear her language, I know she's trying to be offensive. I know that she's trying to insult people. But I do not believe this woman was doing this. The woke cult will accept nothing but complete submission to its prescribed guidelines. And if you dare to step out of line, it'll have you. And I'm afraid that if we want to continue to call ourselves free societies, which is what we fought for a very long time, then this bunch are going to have to be extirpated. Simple as that. They're going to have to be got rid of. We don't mind them saying what they like. I don't mind any woko saying what he likes. But when they start going after other people for saying, perfectly legitimately saying what they like, then we have a problem, and we have to stop them. And personally, the quicker the better.